one.
Oh my gosh. I usually live by my calendar. I've had trouble actually with my computer clock syncing to like the real clock. So I seem to be either a minute or two ahead or behind. And so I'm never quite sure. Anyway.
Where you're at? What time it is?
Well, within like within 2 or 3 minutes, which when
Yeah.
you're like on Zoom calls all day is like, you got to be precise.
Yeah, and especially if it's work ones, we're not as critical. But
well,
yeah,
you guys are the most critical. What's happening to Dana?
The most fun. I don't know.
It's like,
I thought it was raining in Portland.
Are you a vampire?
It was so crazy wind here last night, Laurel. I've never heard it like that. It was like, you know,
even more so than the night before.
You know when a storm front moves through, like a thunderstorm?
Well, I've been in tornadoes before, so.
You've actually been in a tornado.
Well, not in like the eye of a tornado, but like I've been in buildings where like all the doors open up and the tornado, you know, the wind comes running, you know, and you find out a house a block away got the roof taken off. Like I've been that close to a tornado.
That's scary.
We'll just stop talking about our wind then.
Well, I have seen windows move in a tornado where I was back in Michigan, but it was all I can, like when a storm front moves through, you have that big gust of wind.
Right.
And these were just like constant every like 5 minutes on like extreme, like on steroids. And it was just like
howl. In your windows. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it would like come and go. It was a really weird sort of like, yeah, it was very unusual.
Did you lose power last night?
No.
Oh man, we just got our power back on. Peter went for a walk through the neighborhood and ran into some PGE guys. And I guess there's like
branches down and stuff that took the
quarter of a mile up the road. There's 3 poles that are down. Like it took out 3 freaking power poles.
Wow.
I believe it. I mean, it was pretty windy.
Yeah, it was intense.
I was thinking about your widow makers and our trees around our property. I'm like, man.
Yeah, we didn't get any more down. We've just got some branches. We could not figure out where that big branch came from. It must have been really high up in the tree because you can't see where it broke off from down in the ground.
Or from your neighbors?
We didn't get any from our neighbors this time, but a couple of years ago, we had one from our neighbor's yard that like barely missed one of the big windows in our backyard. Like it was pretty close. We were lucky.
Our Christmas tree I took out last week, and it's like on the other side of the yard this morning. And we don't need a leaf blower. All the leaves are gone now.
In our neighbor's yard.
Yeah, they're in your neighbor's yard.
That worked out really well.
Wow, that is windy if it picked up a Christmas tree.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't at a stand. It was just laying there, but it's...
Yeah, no, but still, sideways. I mean, that means it's like a big, you know...
Yeah, it was definitely...
That's bigger than a tumbleweed. A whole Christmas tree.
Yes.
Bigger than a tumbleweed, smaller than a house.
Yeah.
I just saw your photos that you put on Facebook of your trip into town.
I know, it's nuts. Crap. It's nuts.
I mean, I've never seen anything like that in the United States.
I'm sorry, I missed the pictures. I'm no longer on Facebook.
So last night, so I'm at my office is about 4 blocks from the Capitol. And to get to my office, I ride the metro into the stop near the White House and I walk across DC because you all know I'm totally into walking, right? So I get off at the White House this morning. Or last night, I walked from my place back to the metro and normal ghost town DC, nothing unusual. This morning, 12 hours later, 7 a.m., they have got, I get off at near the White House. Every single intersection has those big concrete blockades. Like if you were doing construction on a highway, every single one of those has those set up. Checkpoints, like police with their flashers on.
Wow.
Stopping every car that goes through. I mean, this is probably 5 blocks from the National Mall. So pretty far, right? Like this is a big perimeter that they're doing. Every car that's going through, they're checking. One of the first cars I saw was a white guy in a red pickup truck outside his vehicle. The police had taken him out of his vehicle and were searching his truck. Which I was like, that one I was like not brave enough to take a picture of, Dana. I was like, usually I have no, like I'll just start filming whatever I see, but I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm taking a picture of that.
Yeah, it's really strange how quickly the tables have turned.
But I saw, two other pickups getting, from the look at it, of it, interrogated, and one that was being told turn around. Which I'm assuming is because they didn't have, congressional ID or whatever. And then the fencing is going up, like, the 10-foot tall big fencing is going up.
Did you get stopped and questioned then? And what were the questions?
No, thankfully I'm still like middle-aged white lady. Nobody ever pays attention to us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, Toyota Priuses over either, probably.
I mean, they were stopping every single car.
Yeah.
But the ones that, it could be a bit my imagination, but definitely the guy who was out of the pickup truck, like his cab door was open. He was standing outside the truck, and the police were in the cabin of his truck.
I wonder if he told them that he had a firearm, which would be smart. When the cops stop you, you better say that you've got one.
Not in DC, it's against the law.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Carry, DC is against the law to carry.
Unless you're a Republican House member.
Yeah.
You just carry it into the Senate like they did last week. Or I saw some guy.
Did they have weapons on them?
Some guy was complaining about it, his right to carry a gun in there.
I'm pretty sure nobody can carry it into the Capitol.
Yeah. They were screening them though.
He wouldn't go through the. He wouldn't go through the gate. He wouldn't go through the
metal detector.
Metal detector.
Yeah.
Went around it.
Laurel,
so anyway, so we'll see when I go back. So I'm definitely going to go all the way to the White House on my way back and see what's happened, because there's been the Black Lives Matter memorial wall that activists have been like guarding the wall because people, the protesters have come and ripped stuff down. And there's been like, I think I've mentioned before, like street fights over that. So I wonder if they've just extended the perimeter and I'm guessing gotten rid of all those people. I don't know. We'll see.
Have you heard anything
report back.
Have you heard anything about counter protests for the inauguration?
Oh, no, we're all being told. I mean, the whole city's being told stay home.
That's good.
And activists here are now, they've got a big email and calling campaign to get the mayor to shut down all DC-based hotels from the 15th to the 20th. And this roster of activists is calling, I think they've called something like 3,000 Airbnb.
Airbnb is shut down.
In the area.
Yeah,
but people are still so people are making individual calls to Airbnb vendors and asking them to review who's staying. So of course that just makes me nervous that everything's going to get pushed to Northern Virginia, Dana. I'm like, well, you can push them to DC, they're going to end up somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to have to have some
my neighborhood. Yeah. And what are they going to be pissed off about in Virginia, where you can carry your gun around? And I don't know.
I wouldn't stay inside. I mean, honestly, it seems a shame that you'd have to do that. But it also, I mean, these people are perfectly capable of just kind of hanging themselves with we don't need to give them any assistance.
Yeah.
Just because they've shown that they're ridiculously violent. I mean, it made me think about what was happening all summer long in Portland. And that just seems so small compared to what we just saw. And I know it's not, I know it's a big deal, but the response seemed so much more intense.
I think we just keep seeing more and more video of what was actually happening inside. And
and the fact it happened there as opposed to a city out in the Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the heart. I mean, it is. Well, and in the Capitol. I mean, if you've been in the Capitol, you know how heavy security is so that they could like bash through windows and stuff is just astounding.
I heard that, I don't know if it was on NPR, but the guy who had the big, the leader of
one of them, the horn
guy that got arrested, said he was innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. He just walked through open doors.
Mm-hmm. After other people bashed him in. Bashed him in.
I will say, Laurel, I never felt like any of the US Capitol properties are particularly well secured compared to European standards. I mean, yes, there's a metal detector and the Capitol Police, but the whole system is predicated on people being compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's actually not set up like in London or Paris, right, where they have like permanent feature of the design is like these car blockers, and there are checkpoints outside of the perimeter. So I think you're sort of, I think the US is sort of entering the 21st century in that sense.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because that's always struck me as really bizarre, and all the Smithsonian institutions that you just wander right in. It's just like, that's always struck me as weird as a European. It's so like, oh, come on, the people's building. Like, okay.
Yeah,
I agree.
But then we had a history of domestic terrorism in Germany, right? So
yeah, I guess I'm comparing it to things like what it was like to go down to the Capitol during the Kavanaugh protests, where it was a bunch of like middle-aged ladies in pink knitted hats, right? Like we had riot shields out at the Capitol for Kavanaugh, right? And I don't know, I've seen, been witness to plenty of other protests. Again, maybe it's because it's by compliant people, right? Not by people who are bashing stuff around, but people get removed pretty efficiently from the Capitol when you're protesting.
And you have firsthand, I mean, that's kind of good to hear, just because you read so much, but it's nice to hear in the sense that there's a huge incongruency, right from your position of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think primarily because they didn't call in other law enforcement. So, I mean, generally, if you're in a protest that is seen as, if Antifa are there, for instance, and so law enforcement is there big time. I mean, I've seen horses, segways, bicycles, paddy wagons. I mean, even for minor things like groups of 20, 30 people, you'll be surrounded by a dozen police vehicles easily within a minute. Right. So then it's just like, well, what, so it clearly was a coordination issue where they just didn't call on that capacity quickly enough. And that all seems to be, as the news comes out, all the muddled communications and decision making with the Pentagon.
I thought I read with the Capitol Police that the guy who resigned had called both the House and the Senate sergeants, and they were like, no, it's not a big deal.
So I'm assuming it was, I guess we'll know the whole story at some point, but I guess my experience is that had you wanted that force there quickly, it can be mobilized in this city very quickly.
Yeah.
It's there.
Even at that last minute.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is gone.
And that's what he said. Even he was calling multiple times, even as the protesters were entering the ground.
And was it something that the Metropolitan Police, the DC police, couldn't respond to that call without some other kind of higher authorization? Because wasn't the mayor also?
I'm not really sure.
It's been hard to keep up with the news, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. This is 3 days ago. I think the Army guy just said, I'm not passing it up to the next level, where the House sergeants.
Because everybody has such weird jurisdiction here because, I mean, and protesters will often say, oh, I'm going to protest on this side of the street because that's park police and not on this side of the street because that's FBI, right? Like people know what the jurisdictions are, and you can't cross the there's something like, I don't know, a dozen or so jurisdictions. And so it is, in those situations, I think Metropolitan DC police would have to be called in officially, it would have before they could mobilize those resources. Everything I saw today was DC police. I didn't see any National Guard yet.
Yeah, I wonder why they broke everything out this morning.
Yeah, the three of us that were pedestrians on the street this morning.
Oh, I was just referring to what just happened. if those protesters are still in town, were they going to get all bent out of shape about the impeachment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's I guess the worry is they're supposed to come back this weekend, right? Is that what I'm
rumored?
Yeah.
I feel like that was based off of things that they're following on their social media groups of going back out.
Yeah.
Or just stay in town.
I think they've left for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb in this city, right? You don't see many people that look like that in this city.
I would have figured most of them had scattered after they realized.
Maybe they're hiding in Virginia,
they were
in my neighborhood.
It's a possibility.
All kinds of people in Portland. I don't know if I notice them on the street. Maybe the horns. I don't know. You should write in here, that guy with the horns.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would. That wouldn't even raise an eyebrow here in Portland.
It wouldn't be interested unless he was riding a bicycle that was like 30 feet in the air. Then you might take a look.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a lot of tourists that wear like MAGA hats and stuff around DC, it's always just so, like, you kind of see it on the street and you're like, what? And you, oh, right, tourists are here, right? And it's generally like teenagers or dads and stuff that are wearing their MAGA hats. But they, really stick out because, I mean, it's a very professional city. So like people in suits and stuff. And then it's a majority Black city. So like that's our two groups, and the MAGA people don't look like those folks.
There's not a lot of plaid shirts being worn.
No.
Carhartt.
I have a completely different wardrobe for when I go visit my parents in Williamsburg. I'm not kidding you. I will sneak my cutoffs in there when, I used to, because my parents don't live at the same place, because I'd wear them to the swimming pool. But no, I gotta put on a different face when I go there, because it's just expected of you. It's like having a foot in both worlds.
I mean, if you're of a certain age, like you do have some young activist, artist, kind of crunchier folks, but those are in kind of pockets of neighborhoods. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not on my own like I used to be, and my brother and sister-in-law don't live there anymore. They moved away when my parents downsized. But yeah, because I'm hanging out with the old folks, I really don't have any choice.
We should make Dana dress up in those clothes one day and show us.
I want to kind of know what they look like now.
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's like no jeans in the dining room. I've got my cute little tennis shoes and my white shoes and my white pants. You just have to. I have to look like an old lady now, which sucks.
How old are your parents?
My mom is 83 and my dad's 84, and they live in a all military officer retirement community. So everybody there's a shit ton of Trump supporters there.
And they have a dress code, it sounds like.
Like, yeah, if you're going into the dining room or to the bar area, you're not allowed to wear blue jeans. I mean,
now this is all making more sense.
Yeah, that's a different kind of Trump supporter though than the ones showing up here.
Yeah, these are the Trump supporters that have money. But clearly the ones that have showed up, I mean, I was talking to my brother about this. That tactical gear that those people
they had money.
Not cheap.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah. Those militia type people, yeah.
Yeah. So they're clearly drawing in the dollars from somewhere. But yeah, it's not like no. Sorry, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies when I think about it. Like I'm so glad I don't live in North Carolina anymore. I mean, there were little pockets of like Asheville and in the mountains, but then right next to that are really, really conservative, freaking scary people.
Was that amazing how the joint heads of the military branches sent that letter yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
That was really a true mind boggler. It was very short and succinct, and was basically, you serve the Constitution, don't you dare do anything else.
That's right.
It's really true. I mean, it goes back to the Civil War. When you look at like my grandfathers that served, my father's grandfather, he went to West Point. You swear an oath to the Constitution when you serve. It doesn't matter if you live in Tennessee or Missouri, you know, you are a Union soldier, even if it just doesn't matter. And I think that's really important. It is. And so there's going to be a problem, I'm sure. I don't know how these guys that are interested in sedition, but have sworn this oath, how do they reconcile themselves? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a different mindset. But yeah, the military, the American military, they're not, no, they don't want to get involved in that kind of thing. At least the ones
which is good.
Yeah, which is good.
But we do know that there are, you know, I mean, that there are those guys and girls that are serving that don't feel that way.
Well, like the woman who was former Air Force who got shot, right, and killed.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck she was thinking. She should have known better. That was just plain out stupid. And I'm sorry that she lost her life, but that was dumb. When somebody's pointing a gun at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were any of them? What were any of them thinking?
Yeah,
or not. Maybe it's only a few thinking, and the rest were like, "Hey, where are you going?"
Yeah, I know. So many are saying now, "I was caught up in the moment."
Well, you think, of course, there's the mob mentality.
Really?
I mean,
there's
a mob mentality that will carry you along if you're in it. You're already amped up.
But to actually go in, I think, is a whole different thing. I mean, it's one thing to go to the front steps. It's a whole other thing to say you're going to
go inside and then to start destroying property inside, like grabbing signs and
you're not part. Yeah, you. That was
the guy who tased himself to death was stealing a painting of Tip O'Neill. Like, what the heck are you thinking?
So I wasn't sure if that was true or not. So this guy really
that's what I heard. He tased himself.
He tased himself to death. What was he doing?
He was. I mean, I think this is real because I'm pretty sure I read it in a reputable. Yeah, he had a taser. He was holding a taser as a weapon, and he was walking by a painting. He was gonna take to destroy or take a painting of Tip O'Neill off the wall. He literally put the taser between his legs and activated it and tased himself. Accidentally
That's what
activated
I heard. I didn't hear the details, but he had a heart attack. He accidentally tased
himself and had a heart attack and died.
So that's even more apropos. I guess. Put it between his legs.
With a Tip O'Neill painting in his hand.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
speaking as a guy,
for real. I think that's for real.
That's the last place I'd put a taser.
What a way to be remembered. You know, I tased myself in the testicles and I died. That's
didn't see that one.
So sad.
But it's, I mean,
and you look at the picture of that guy, he's just like, you know, an everyday middle-aged white guy. Like he didn't have on all the military tactical guy, you know, he just
which was probably the problem.
Yeah, exactly. He should have had on more protective.
He wasn't wearing his rubberized cup.
Didn't think it all the way through.
No.
When you even think of in Portland, some of that stuff that's happened, it's you know, I'm sure there's people that regret what they've done because they get caught up in the moment, and then they're throwing bricks at police. I'm like, what is that? That doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know, some of that violence that they're, you know, so I'm not condoning it at all.
Yeah, no, I know you're not. I guess it is.
I'm sure there's a lot of regret right now from some of those people that are arrested and went in there like, really, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are facing felonies and will never be able to vote again. Darn.
At least we have that.
Yeah. Or something. I did hear that. And do you know if that's actually possible?
What did you say, Dawn? I
had heard that, and I can't even tell you, but I only listen to NPR and maybe BBC. So somewhere they were like, oh, there's a far off fear that Trump would have the power to pardon anyone that was going to be charged with something in this, you know, breaking in. But I didn't know if that was actually possible before any charges were
brought.
But pardoning all those people. Now it's not, I'm just saying it's more of a like, wouldn't that be
No, I could
horrible?
imagine he might have that. Yeah.
Wow,
Because I think they were like looking at the legality of whether you could pardon things that might occur in the future, right? Like for his kids, for instance,
or himself.
Or himself.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't that
Like
has to have something to do, there's got to be an amendment in there. I mean, if you pardon yourself for something that you haven't done yet, does that mean when you're questioned
or that you haven't been caught,
you can't plead
or prosecuted for, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems really.
There'll be a new amendment if it's not, if it is.
Why can't I pardon myself for all past and future crimes? I like that idea.
Actually,
constitutional law.
That's a real easy.
What? This is just crazy.
It is. Okay, well, speaking of, I need to get over to the White House and check it out.
And for those of us that are on Facebook, send us the best of the best.
Oh,
or
they're just pictures of police cars next to barriers. But
no,
yeah, I can send
a lot of barricade though.
Yeah,
that's a lot of barricade.
Trying to make up for last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right, like